All right, let's get down to some of the things that really make Pray and Go happen. Not suggesting any of the previous sessions were not important. In fact, the biblical basis was the most important. The whole idea of the fact that God has called us to pray, commanded us to go. Do not want to minimize that. That's some of the most important things that we can know in Pray and Go. But there are a lot of people that just at this point would say, let's make it happen. Tell us some of the steps that need to take place. We've gotten the preliminary information out of the way very well, but now it's time to make Pray and Go happen. Let's talk about some possible steps. First of all, you need a Pray and Go coordinator, someone that is overall responsible for the ministry of Pray and Go. A little bit of caution here. Don't presume that someone who has a dynamic prayer life is your best coordinator. You need someone that is also administratively organized, that may or may not be a prayer warrior. That may be someone other than that. What you need here is someone that is adept in administration, that has good follow-up. Let me give you an example. I've spent many years in the academic world. And oftentimes what will happen is someone that is brilliant in the classroom, that has written incredible books and that is a theologian cum laude, will get promoted to an administrative position. And then that person just does lousy in that leadership or administrative position. They were good at what they do, and then the Peter principle took effect. They were promoted to their level of incompetence. Well, don't do that just because you say, oh, we know what a heart for prayer that Jennifer has. We know for a heart of prayer that Jed has. We understand that they are really prayers, and so we're going to make them the prayer coordinator. Okay, it's fine to have a prayer warrior, someone that is passionate about prayer as a prayer coordinator. But you really need someone with administrative skills that likes follow-up, that is fine with keeping records and being responsible for overall coordination. So as you're looking for this person, what you are looking for is someone more administratively inclined than anything else. Okay? So find a Pray and Go coordinator. We'll be talking about this position. We'll unpack it in just a moment. You also need a Pray and Go map strategist. One of the keys that is very important for Pray and Go to happen is a map that shows the progress of the streets that you're covering, of the community that you're covering, home by home, so that the progress can be evident, hopefully to the entire congregation, maybe in the foyer or somewhere like that. Now, as Pray and Go continues to unfold, we'll continue to put resources and suggestions out there that show you what you can do to get these maps, but you can create one manually. Or you can certainly do a Google map and do so from there. But what you need is someone that can keep track of where the people have gone and where they need to go. Someone that is monitoring the progress. Now, you may be looking for someone that's just a pretty kind of a tech nerd. Someone that can just use a Google Maps or use some type of software and just plug in. You may want someone with artistic talents that has a good administrative. Now, sometimes artistic and administrative don't go hand in hand, but sometimes it does, and they want to do it manually, and they're going to color the streets as you have gone. But you need someone, above all, that is keeping track of where people have been and then gives them assignments of where they need to go. Where they have been and gives them assignments. Okay, 7900 22nd Avenue North is complete. Our next assignments are going to come on 21st Avenue North. And so here are the addresses that we need covered. And so the Pray and Go map strategist provides those addresses, perhaps sends it out in an email and say, cover this range. If you don't get to all of them, that's fine. She'll just pick up where you left off. But you need someone that is monitoring that and that's kind of passionate about watching this thing begin to unpack and to go. So you need a Pray and Go map strategist. Also, you need one or more people who are a prayer and response team. One or more. And what are they doing? They're responding to prayer requests. Now, let me make clear. You have prayer request where please pray, and the request is for a prayer, but you also have requests beyond the actual act of praying. I noted those earlier. In fact, one of the assignments that I gave you that I hope you completed was, what would you do if someone was asking for money in the prayer request? What do you think some of the common questions are going to be, or requests are going to be in the Pray and Go ministry? It might be that, and this is what is so neat about this. As you do Pray and Go, you may discover that there are a lot of single moms in your community that are requesting time of fellowship, just time to get together with other single moms. And all of a sudden you may discover, look at this, we've had 50 requests among single moms this past year. You know what God may be telling you? You got a ministry waiting for you in the community. And you may have someone that is passionate about that. We have someone in the church where I'm currently attending right now. Her name is April. And April was always passionate about single moms because she was a single mom for many, many years. And now as she's in her 50s, she's continued to have that same type of passion. Well, if April saw that Pray and Go was producing evidence that there were single moms looking for ministry, she would jump on it. I mean, she would be like it on it right away. So here's another great thing about Pray and Go. Ministries in the community can begin to evolve according to the prayer requests that are taking place. But you need someone to respond to those prayer requests. It may be a response, hey, we currently don't have a specific ministry for single moms, but we're going to hold on to your request. And if we do, we'll be contacting you. Something as simple as that. You need someone to respond to their prayer requests. Now, what else do you need? You need enough Pray and Go walker warriors. I love that. Walker warriors. They're actually walking in the community, but they're prayer warriors, to cover what we suggest 44 weeks out of the year. So obviously 52 weeks, 44 weeks. This is a year-round ministry. We are suggesting that probably one of the best paths is not to have significant breaks, but simply to keep this as year-round. Listen to this point very, very carefully. We strongly recommend you keep Pray and Go moving year-round. One of the reasons we've tried not to make it too burdensome on any one person or to be too complex on any group of people is the effectiveness of this is more like a build-up. And you start and you may not see a great response right at first, but you continue, and then it becomes a momentum, God-given momentum all on its own. But if you take a long break, that momentum begins to subside until you have no momentum. We truly believe that God wants to push the Great Commission forward. We truly believe that He wants us to continue, that this isn't something that we do for a season and then break for a longer season. We strongly recommend that you keep Pray and Go moving year-round. Now, one of the more effective methodologies, if you look at here on your show notes, is 11-2, 11-2, 11-2, 11-2. Now, what those numbers simply mean is you do Pray and Go for 11 weeks, and then you take 2 weeks off. So in a year, you would do Pray and Go for 44 weeks, and you'd have a total of 8 weeks of break, but no break for any period longer than 2 weeks. You say, what about Christmas or Easter or times like that? Actually, that may be some of the most effective times to do Pray and Go. Now, I do want to make a contextual comment here. Let's say that you're someone listening to this from Montana. My understanding is it can get pretty cold there, and there can be a lot of snow at times. There may be times where you need to have some breaks during key seasonal times where it is difficult for people to get out and Pray and Go. That's a contextual adaptation where there are weather impediments or issues, or perhaps there are others that we do not even know about. We're not asking you to fixate on any one methodology. We like the 11-2, 11-2, 11-2, 11-2 approach if possible, because there's a consistency to it. You go 11 weeks, you're off 2 weeks. You go 11 weeks, you're off 2 weeks. But if you need to do this to more adapt to your community, the weather, or any other issues, do so. But keep this in mind. Any prolonged break is going to be a diminishment of momentum. So whatever type of path you go, do your best not to take too longer breaks so that the momentum of Pray and Go can continue to go and continue to grow. Okay, here's another strong recommendation. Go out in teams of 2. Have someone visible that is doing the pray and go with you. Go out in teams of 2. Why do we recommend that? One is safety, going with someone else. The other reason is accountability. If you know that you're going out with someone else, you're more likely to do what you have been asked to do and what you have agreed to do. So even if you're sending out 10 people on a given week, which would be fantastic, it is best to send them out as groups of 2 times 5. 5 groups of 2. And if you have 11, you can have 1 group of 3. That's fine. But make certain that you are not putting people in a position where they are going alone. In the day and age in which we live, safety is imperative, good sense is imperative. So we recommend 2 by 2 or even a third person if you have an odd number. And what do? Let's say you have 2 people. Well, if you're in a typical neighborhood, and say the neighborhoods have sidewalks, you have each of you on each side of the street. You can tell, you're able to tell the Go and Map strategist that we're going to cover each side of this street. And so that strategist gives you the addresses, or you report back to them, and you have one person on one side of the street and one person on the other. You're always visible one to another. That is a safety concern paramount, but it's also a accountability issue. Now, here's a question that may come up. Should we go at nighttime? Should we go in darkness? Probably not. Again, if there's an ideal time, I'm not suggesting there is, probably one of the more effective pray and go times will be on a Sunday afternoon. I know that a lot of ministry can take place on Sunday afternoon. You may even have a greater likelihood of seeing someone in the neighborhood. Unless there's a compelling reason otherwise, I would not suggest that this be an evening ministry. And so basically you could be asking someone, hey, leave church, go get a sandwich. Assume that church goes from 10 to 11:30 and you're out by 11:30, go get a sandwich, and then go cover this many homes in a 45-minute to 60-minute period. So Sunday afternoon can be a good time. If you're going in the darkness, I would want to have a compelling reason why, and I'd want to understand very clearly that you have covered all the safety factors as well. So go out in teams of 2 for safety and accountability, and as an example, each person can cover a side of the street. All right, let's do some math. I have a great team, and they all have their strengths. One of the people on my team that has great marketing strengths is named Julie. But I start talking numbers to her, and her eyes get blurry. She is not that great at math. My concern here is that as I start getting into some of these numbers, your eyes are going to glaze over. If you don't get it, the miracle of videography is that you can rewind me and play me again, okay? So make sure you understand some of these numbers I'm about to give you. And even if I can anticipate on the other side of the camera as you're watching me right now that you're going to have glazed over eyes, go through it again because these numbers are very, very important. Okay, let's go back to the fact that you want to cover 44 weeks a year. Got that? 44 weeks on, 8 weeks off. 11-2, 11-2, 11-2, 11-2. You remember that? Okay, you want to cover 44 weeks. Let's also go back to the fact that you never want to see anybody go out by themselves. You want at least 2 people. So what does that mean? You have 44 weeks to cover, and you need at least 2 people going in each of those 44 weeks. 44 times 2 is 88. You have 88 slots to cover in a year, if you only want to send 2. Now, obviously, you want to try to send more, but if you want to send 2. I won't go into the math of this, but here is just something you need to know. If your members committed, if you had members commit to do this once a month, you would only need 7 or 8 people to cover an entire year for 88 slots. Trust me, the math works out. If you have a small church, let's say you have a church of 30, and you're saying, we just don't have the people power to do this. And you want to cover 88 slots a year, 44 weeks times 2 people is 88 slots. You can cover that with only 7 or 8 people for the entire year. I said 7 to 8 because it's a fraction. So you can do Pray and Go with a very few number of people and still cover 44 weeks with 2 people going out, and their commitment level is only once a month. That's the beauty of Pray and Go. It does not put an undue burden, a heavy burden on any one person. Even in a small church of 20 or 30, as long as you can get 6 or 7 people committed to once a month, then obviously you're able to fill all of those slots. But listen to this, the numbers get staggering. Let's say you have a church of 100 in worship attendance. Maybe you have a total of 150 people that show up at least once a month, okay? So 150. What if you could get 20 of those people to commit to once a month? If you had 20 people committed to once a month, listen to this number. Again, don't let your eyes glaze over because there's math. You could fill 240 slots a year. 240 slots a year. That's 20 people going out 12 times a year, once a month. 240 slots. Now, pardon me as I just expand this a little bit more numerically. Again, I'm fearful that I'll just lose you on all this. But if those 240 people, those slots a year, if they cover 10 homes, which is pretty easy to do, usually you can cover 10 homes in just a matter of minutes if they're in a neighborhood, you can cover 2,400 homes in a year with 20 people only going out once a month. That, again, is the beauty of Pray and Go. It works incredible for large churches. It works very well for mid-sized churches. And it can be highly effective for smaller churches as well. The example I gave is as long as you had 7 people committed to once a month, you can fill 2 slots every single week. The possibilities are staggering. I don't want you to get lost in the numbers, but I want you to see the simplicity of it and the lack of burden that is placed upon any one person. The possibilities are just incredibly staggering. Okay, what else do you need to know? Pray and Go needs reasonable accountability. All right, hear me on this. You need to tell these people up front who are agreeing to be a part of Pray and Go. Don't beg people to do it. Don't beg. Give a passion behind the ministry itself and say, we just want people who are really committed to this. And here's what they need to know. If they're going to miss an assigned time, which is possible due to illness, due to an unexpected call out of town, anytime someone cannot make their assigned time, that person needs to know that he or she is responsible for getting someone else to take their slot, maybe trading a time. You don't need the coordinator trying to beg for people. You know, many times in preschool, people don't show up or so they cancel at the last minute. And so the children's minister, the preschool minister's going down this list of names to try to get someone to cover. No, you need to get a commitment on the front end that any of these Pray and Go walkers and warriors, if they can't make it, they are responsible for getting someone to take their place. That's imperative. That puts the onus of the responsibility and that puts the commitment back upon the person who is praying and going. So it needs reasonable accountability. Now this next comment should be self-evident. But you know what Pray and Go also means? Pray before you go. It's not just praying for each home individually. It's before you go out, say you're 2 by 2, you pray for the Holy Spirit to precede. You pray for safety for the 2 of you going out. You pray for opportunities. You pray that what you do will have an impact and effect that only God can bring about. So don't just go. Pray before you go. So pray and go. Then what do? You've been given a assigned street or location or streets or blocks, whatever the case may be, and you begin to go home by home, just as we have described. And then, as we described earlier, you keep a short prayer at each home. You have a short prayer at each home, and then you leave the hanger, signed by you. We've already described that. Minimal information. You maybe signed your first name at it. You keep track of the addresses that you've covered, beginning and end, and then report them back to the Pray and Go map strategist. Don't let this get too complex. Let me just hear me very clearly that you're going out, you're reporting back the homes that you've covered, and you give it to the strategist, and the strategist says, okay, this is how far we've gone. And the strategist is able to get it to a map and to make it evident to the people how many homes you've covered. Think about this. Think about the impact upon the church as they begin to see more and more homes covered by Pray and Go. Incredible opportunity. Typical commitment is about 45 minutes per Pray and Go outing. You don't want it to be much longer than that. 45 minutes a month or a quarter or even every other month. 45 minutes so you can cover a lot of homes in most populated areas in a very short time. Rural areas, of course, will be an exception. Again, you can expand that or contract that according to contextual issues, but you really just want to say we're looking for a commitment of 45 minutes a month or 45 minutes every other month. Whatever the case may be, the typical commitment is about 45 minutes. So keep that in mind. Once again, you're not asking for all this memorization, and you're not asking for someone to go out for 2 hours every week, one day every week. You're asking for someone to commit to around 45 minutes a month or even less frequently, and then to go there. Okay, here's something else to remember. You will likely encounter people as you walk in your neighborhood. What happens? You have a certain number of homes that you want to cover. Hear me. Don't let quotas get in the way of the Holy Spirit's work. It is not nearly as important that you cover your goal of 20 homes, for example, as it is to take the opportunity that God has given you to minister. You can even report back to your strategist. I was only able to cover 3 homes. Let me tell you why. You put it in an email, and that can be a testimony itself. God put someone in your path in Pray and Go. God put someone there that you weren't even planning on going into the home, and you had this opportunity. So, as you encounter people, as you walk the neighborhood or wherever you may be, don't let quotas get in the way of the Holy Spirit's work. Just continue to be open to what He is doing. Be open to the fact that you now have an opportunity. You may even have a good chance for a gospel conversation that you never would have thought otherwise. This is very important. It says both the Pray and Go Walker Warriors and the map strategists maintain and update a digital or physical map so that the congregation can see the progress. There are lots of possibilities. You can have it on a monitor digitally in the worship center. You can make it a part of the worship service. During the prayer time, we want to show you all the homes that we have covered, and here is the map, and people are looking at it, and it's getting more and more expansive every week, and that is a part of the prayer time during the corporate worship. You're smart. You leaders can figure out ways to make this work well within your church. And one of the things that will happen is Pray and Go becomes a more pervasive ministry throughout the world, and we get reports in. We'll be sharing them with you and making them available to you on an ongoing basis. So maintain that digital or physical map. I would lean toward a digital map just because of the ease of it. And once you've got it set up, it's just a matter of punching a few buttons. But that ultimately is your decision and what you want to do. Okay, hear this too. Make Pray and Go a regular part of the church's prayer ministry, whatever that prayer ministry is defined. Whether it's a gathering of people or the suggestion of the senior adults, the boomers, the younger builders, whatever the case may be, the Pray and Go ministry and the requests that are coming in should be an integral part of the overall prayer ministry. Now, you begin to get a little bit of the spirit of this. You begin to get a little bit of the excitement of the possibilities of this. Does this just kind of blow your mind to think that you can have a church that's just constantly going and praying, and it just builds again and again? I just want to tell you that the possibilities in God's power are endless, and I just pray that this ministry will be used in a mighty way in your church. Okay, before we take a break and go to session 6, you got some Pray and Go questions. Question number 1: why should you limit breaks in Pray and Go to 2 weeks? I've given some reasons why, but I want you to talk about it. Why do you really want to keep your breaks to a minimum? Let's talk about the downside if you don't, some possibilities that could happen. Gather around if there's others, or just if you're in a small group, just talk about it. Why should you limit breaks in Pray and Go to 2 weeks? Secondly, What do you anticipate will happen in your church after 6 months of Pray and Go? All right, I want y'all to start dreaming. Start dreaming of the possibilities of conversions, people coming to Christ. Start thinking about the possibility of the ministries that will just evolve from this. Talk about the possibility of a church that is more unified because it is outward focused instead of inwardly focused. Take time right now to just dream. Whoever is watching this video, take time to dream about what Pray and Go can do for your church. You got it? Those are the two questions. Why should you limit breaks and Pray and Go to 2 weeks? And what do you anticipate will happen in your church after 6 months of Pray and Go? All right, we're ready for session 6. When you get ready to come back, we're going to go to keeping the Pray and Go successful year-round. What are some of the keys? You want to be here for that. You want to be ready to listen to it. And we'll see you on the other side in session 6.